Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall and, of course, also featuring on many occasions. I really enjoy Bill Bender joining the Tim May Clay Hall extravaganza. Yeah. Bill Bender of the Sporting News. Welcome back to the Tim May Show, my man.
Hey, Tim, Clay, how are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, appreciate you.
We're doing extremely well. Clay's regaling me with stories of his brother from down in South Carolina. I'm thinking about the college football playoff championship game where you're headed. You may be already there by the time this thing posts, if you follow my drift. But Bill Bender, ladies and gentlemen, big time mover and shaker in the what's the sports writers thing called, Bill? National Football Writers Association of America. Do I have that right?
Football Writers Association of America. This weekend, my presidency or my 1-year term is over Friday. Wow. So there was no controversy, no scandal. I'm just closing that out with the past president's dinner, which I value very much, as you do as a Tim, as a FWA member. And then Saturday we will present the Eddie Robinson Award, Coaching Award of the Year, Coach of the Year Award to Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, and I will MC that. And I've been to that event several times, and it does mean a lot when you think about Eddie Robinson's legacy and coaching. And I was looking at his stats yesterday; it's absurd. And the year that Luke Fickell won it at Cincinnati, it meant a lot to be able to talk to him and his wife. And Clark Lee's a hell of a football coach, so we'll get to do that on Saturday.
Yeah, I've always pondered if the world had been right all along, meaning correct as in racial relations, et cetera, and there was no such thing as what was going on in this country, especially in the South, and especially at the turn of the past century. Who would we have heard less of, Eddie Robinson or Bear Bryant? If you follow my drift,
Eddie had 50 plus seasons at Grambling, and an unbelievable win total. One of those, I looked back, Tim and Clay, at the Sporting News a couple years ago when college football was celebrating its 150th anniversary. We did all those lists like everybody does, and Eddie Robinson was number 7 on that list. He probably is higher, to answer your question. And there were 2 Ohio State coaches, Urban Meyer and Woody Hayes, on that list. So, when you're in that kind of company, you're pretty darn good.
Yeah, Bill, just one thing. I covered HBCUs in Mississippi for 12 years and certainly ran across Eddie numerous times. And the thing about he remembered your name. They so appreciated the coverage, and it just kept you coming back because the impact he had with so many young men. And though I didn't see him every season, it was just love the interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that'll set the tone for what should be a fun weekend. Obviously, Tim and I talked about it a little bit last week, but, you get Miami, you get Indiana, you get these veteran rosters. It's going to be a lot of fun down in Miami. I've covered a lot of college football championship games. I was thinking about it, all these footballs behind me.
I was going to ask you this, but go ahead. Yeah.
I always grab a football from the title game. So if I'm turning around, like this one right here, sorry to camera that is the ball from last year, for example, Ohio State.
Wow.
Game.
See, I thought they played with a regulation ball down there, but you're
I always grab a southouvenir football.
You want to remember a real football.
No. So this was I think this one's number 10 that we'll be doing this week. And I never take those moments for granted. I think the atmosphere will be amazing. I don't know what you guys feel about the game. I'm sure we can get into it here, but I'm starting to walk back my initial prediction. My initial prediction is Indiana was going to kind of control and dominate this game, but maybe it plays out a little closer. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm Clay and I. We're definitely going to get into that with you. I want one last thing about Eddie Robinson. Remember Bill Miles was assistant coach at Ohio State?
Yeah.
Well, he grew up and kind of plied his trade in Kansas City area, and the NAIA used to hold its basketball tournament in that big auditorium in Kansas City for like years. And when Eddie Robinson would come up with the Grambling team or whatever, it was funny. Bill Miles told me that Eddie Robinson would be sitting up in like wherever up in the stands, and there'd be like 30, 40 football coaches around him, and they would just be telling stories, and Eddie Robinson would be extolling all kinds of advice, stories himself, et cetera. And you talk about a legend. And the interesting thing about him is that was back in the day when football coaches were kings, meaning kings, fathers, grandfathers, whatever you want to call it. I mean, whatever they said was the gospel, right, Bill? And it was like it's crazy times now, man. I'm not sure Eddie Robinson would accept what's going on in college football right now, except that players are getting paid. And I'm sure he would have been for that. But what an era he coached in, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously times change. There was a story I read yesterday off an ESPN article where the old Grambling basketball coach was, he bumped into Muhammad Ali when he was Cassius Clay, and he was trying to recruit him to play basketball. And this kid, Ali, was telling him, I would be your tight end. I would be your point guard. And by the way, I'm the greatest boxer of all time. And when the coach told Eddie about it, Eddie said, well, tell him that we'll offer him 2 sports. He can play both sports here and get an education. And that tells you where it was then. I still think we have pieces of that now. But I mean, as I was telling you, and we have an article at Sporting News about it, you're dealing with 2 extremely veteran rosters here. If you look at Indiana's starting lineup across the board, including the second running back, you've got an average of 4.3 years of college experience. For Miami, that number's around 3.9. Mario on Monday was quick to say, hey, ironically, we're playing another veteran team. And Ohio State saw both of these teams. And, the Buckeyes, I mean, I don't – this is why I'm not – like when you lose to the 2 teams playing for the whole thing, you can't be all that mad.
No, I was going to say, I mean, Ohio State won the Indiana Award this year. It lost to the 2 teams that played for the national championship a year ago. That was its only 2 losses. Ohio State, ironically, can boast the same thing if, in fact, you boast about something like that. But it is an interesting matchup in all kinds of ways because Miami's been resurrected by Mario Cristobal. I think that's the best way of putting it. And Indiana hadn't been reborn. Indiana's brand new. So Indiana's been birthed by Kurt Cignetti. Is that a good analogy?
Let me ask you guys this, because I'm going to be honest. You guys have had many more trips to Bloomington than I ever have, and you've covered some horrible games there, I'm sure, over the years. Making that trek over to Bloomington, watching the Buckeyes pick their score.
Sometimes it've been great ball games.
They had a really good one during the Urban era. I remember that one. But I mean, when you're talking about a school that hadn't beat Ohio State since like the Anthony Thompson heyday, and I remember Anthony Thompson. I mean, he played with the Cardinals. He was a hell of a running back. When you think of Indiana in a championship game, as guys that have been around the Ohio State beat forever, what do you think?
Go ahead.
You mean the fact that, they've gotten there after having been at the lowest rung. Yeah. Yeah, and I when Tim said, hey, there have been some great games. What was it, 52-49?
Yeah.
Kevin Wilson and Urban Meyer told him after the game, you got a great future, kid. Yeah. And Kevin Wilson was probably 45 at the time. It defies logic. It defies description. It's flat out amazing. So I want to get into the game, but what they've done, I mean, get out of here. Go ahead.
When I first started covering Ohio State in 1984 on a full-time basis, I mean, we all remember the Lee Corso incident, in what was the late 70s when he got his team together, most of his team together to get a picture of them leading 7-0 over Ohio State. I think that was a score. That was a monumental moment for them. But I covered of course, the 87 darkest day in Ohio State history game. And then when Ohio State got beat in Ohio State and wherever it was, 31-17. And Earl Bruce called it the darkest day in Ohio State history. Not Ohio State football history, Ohio State history. And then the next year, of course, Earl got fired at the end of that season. And the next year, Anthony Thompson and company beat Ohio State something like 41-7 at Memorial Stadium over there in Indiana. This is under Bill Mallory. And my lead the next morning was something in the Columbus Dispatch was something to the effect, a new day has dawned in the Big Ten. Indiana just beat Ohio State 2 years in a row. And, Ohio State was so bad that day and Indiana was so good. And you thought, man, they've really got something going on. If they leapfrog now from this into something else, instead of just being bowl eligible, but man, really putting it together into Bill Mallory. Mm-hmm. And of course, they were chasing, the blue bloods all the way through that. And so they never got there with Bill Mallory. And of course, Indiana administrators thought, well, we can be better than Bill Mallory's gotten us to, which was Bill Mallory made them relevant.
Yeah.
They get rid of Bill Mallory and run through those string of coaches until finally ending up with Curt Cignetti. Curt Cignetti came in with a plan. He came in as a winner. Google him. And that's accurate. That's an accurate thing. He brought players with him from James Madison who were used to playing together. But not only that, they could coach along the guys that were left at Indiana and that Indiana was bringing in from the portal. He brought in big-time portal players that fit what they wanted to do. Last year, they were really good. This year, they're elite. And but what's elite about them, Bill? Talk to me about this. What's elite about them is they're really good players. They don't have the greatest roster in the world, but really good players. But, man, do they understand the system they're playing in? That is so huge. What's your take on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, and Curt talked about that on his teleconference Monday. He said, when he got there, he had 3 days into his job, he had 10 offensive starters in the portal, 1 defensive guy left.
Yeah.
And so they went to work and he took some of these James Madison guys. Again, I said that earlier, the experience on the roster up and down. You have 6th-year guys, 4-year guys. And I said this on the Carpenter show earlier this week that they're experienced guys that don't mess up. That's Indiana in one sentence. And I think that's on Curt Cignetti, the talent evaluation, his edge that he brought to the program. Now, as Clay was asking, so we get into this game. Here's the biggest key of the game to me. If you look at the 4 games where Indiana was given a game, so to speak, and we're talking Oregon the first time, Penn State, Ohio State, and Iowa, they averaged 3.5 yards rushing or less.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the magic number for me for Miami. If Indiana runs the football and runs it effectively, this will be a blowout.
Yeah.
If Miami's defensive line creates havoc and does some of the things, I think the Miami blueprint to victory is exactly what they did to Ohio State. You chew the clock, your defense gets after the quarterback, you prevent the big plays, and if those things happen, though, and you feed off whatever the crowd split will be, whether it's half or not.
Yeah. Bill, you could be a college football coach because, I mean, that you just threw all the cliches out there it takes to win a game like this.
Cliches, like to me, football's simple, though. Like
Exactly.
When Ryan Day talks about, to me, in a big game, every big game, it's run the ball, stop the run.
Yeah.
If you can run the ball and dominate and then you stop the run, I mean, but those numbers stand out to me. Indiana's been challenged in the games where somebody, bows up and stops the run.
Yep.
Maybe I'll be Ohio State's next offensive coordinator. Who knows?
No, but here's the thing. And I know probably people understand this. When you can run the ball and you can stop the run the ball offensively, stop the run defensively, what you actually do in simple terms is you make the game much more predictable for yourself, meaning offensively, that means you should be able to sneak a big time pass in there on occasion. And then defensively, they're going to be throwing the ball. Now you pin your ears back, and where Indiana's really good, man, is that game the games they play up front with their defensive front, getting after the quarterback, and just all of a sudden a guy comes clean, and he's in the grill of Carson Beck, for example. And then number 3, you've got this blueprint now about Miami. Miami kind of came into its own in these playoffs, and one of the reasons is Carson Beck, especially against Ohio State, had that 3-5-yard run every so often that kept the drive alive, like you're talking about, and bled that clock. Indiana, I don't think, wants to get into a clock bleeding duel Agreed. I mean, is that what we're talking about? But I do believe the best quarterback is on Indiana's roster. What's your take on that?
Yeah, the lower the score, the better chance Miami wins. That's another obvious one to me. If they get into like a 24-17 type game, I'd probably say Miami won. If it's 30-23, then I'm taking Indiana. Yeah, Mendoza's been brilliant. I mean, the ball's hardly hit the turf in the playoff. The one throw he gets that definitely stands out to me is they'll get in a third down and he'll just do a back shoulder fade to Elijah Surratt, a big-bodied receiver that absolutely is just an amazing player.
That's
or he'll
State.
hit Charlie Becker, Charlie Becker makes big catches at the right time.
That's Ohio State.
Yeah. They unfortunately they know both. And then Miami's defensive backs are really good. They rebuilt their entire secondary through the transfer portal. All five of those guys, and they can hit. And, we saw it firsthand. I didn't think Ruben Bain had the same impact in the Ole Miss game that he did in the Ohio State game. And part of it was
bingo.
Go ahead, Clay. You tell me why.
Well, but I was going to tell you your first impression of this game, I think, is correct because Miami had its way with A&M and Ohio State in terms of pass rush, sacks, etc. They had one sack against Ole Miss. It was a close 31-27, I think it was. They had 5 or 6 hurries, but they did not get to a guy like Trinidad Chambliss, who's quite elusive. If Miami can't get to Mendoza, it's over. I mean,
I agree 100%.
He will kill them. And by the way, here's another stat. And Tim always says I'm the stat man, but 6 teams.
Well, that's when I'm calling him a good name. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. 6 teams have thrown for at least 250 yards against Miami. What's Indiana going to do? So if Bain and Mesidor can't wreak any havoc, I don't think this is much of a game, despite an improving Carson Beck and his ability to run.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And I think another thing to keep in mind, there's one other thing I wanted to throw out about this game and the atmosphere, and you saw how Indiana turned the Peach Bowl into a home game. Yeah. They had 90% of the crowd there. Some of that might be Oregon had to go to Florida and Oregon had to go to Atlanta. And,
absolutely.
And that's a lot of money. But I do think there'll be a lot of Miami fans here. I grew up, and I'm a little bit younger than you guys, not by too much, but I threw the stat out there.
Everybody's younger than
I'm
us.
a little bit younger, not by too much.
Here's Bill could be my kid. That's how young he is.
So Miami won that national title in 83. From 83 through the end of the BCS era, that's a 30-season window.
Yeah.
At least of one of Miami, Florida, or Florida State played the game that determined the national championship 60% of the time.
Yeah.
It's and now Miami, for the first time, you have a Florida school in the CFP championship game. I think that's great for college football to have the Canes in there. I remember those Miami teams from the 80s and 90s, and of course the one Ohio State beat in the BCS championship game. It's hard to describe to my 15-year-old son, 15-year-old son, sorry, he'd get mad, but that this was the school. This was this was the school that college football revolved around for most of my childhood because they were so darn good.
Yeah.
Talent, guys. I think they're going to come out in fatigues in this game. Hey, Bill, how big is home field for the Canes? Is it worth a touchdown or no?
See, I think the crowd, and talking to Bobby about it, I think it's going to be 50-50.
Yeah.
60-40-ish, 55-45, something like that. I think there's going to be a lot of Indiana fans there.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
And
Indiana fans are they're deep into their HELOCs right now, their home equity loan. I mean, they're deep into all of their money resources. This has never happened before. Will it ever happen again? You make all the trips. Go ahead. And you saw the ticket prices, Bill. It's
I
nuts.
think last year, Ohio State, Notre Dame, I conservatively estimate that was probably 70-30, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
In the crowd, I think it was about 65-35, 70-30. There was a lot of red in there. So this one, it's going to look like a Christmas tree between the green and the red, probably some orange.
I like that. I like that analogy.
And, I do think the Miami presence will be there. I think a lot of those legends I was just talking about, we'll see Michael Irvin and Andre Johnson and Ray Lewis. And to me, that's pretty cool. You'll get to see that atmosphere. And then on the other hand, I've made this analogy a couple times. Indiana, it is a remarkable turnaround, one of the most remarkable turnarounds.
What do you mean, one of the most? Bill, give me one that's even close. I'm talking about over the last 2 seasons, based on what you thought of Indiana football and what you think of Indiana football now.
It would be like the Browns going 19-0 next year.
That's the National Football League. I'm talking about in college football. There's never been. I haven't seen one like this. Clay, do you agree?
Mississippi State #1 in the country for 6 weeks.
6 weeks. We're talking about
18.
Indiana. Indiana being the losingest. Is that the correct term, Bill? Losingest program in major college football history up until the last 2 years. Possibly becoming the first team in history to go 16-0. Are you kidding me?
Right.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Right. And I think it is. And now I qualify it this way though, and I'm not downplaying any of this. It is made possible by the things that they've done. The portal and being able to take advantage of a 12-team format. But that doesn't diminish what they've done. They've beat Michigan and they've beat Ohio State and they've beat Oregon and they've taken, college football by storm. And I think they've done it with a really good kid at quarterback. Like I can't find, I could sit here for an hour and try to find something wrong with Fernando Mendoza and I can't do it.
All right.
The grades, the class, he's deflect. He'll always say, yeah, that guy's great. And he's that guy. And it's almost like it's a Tebow-like quality that he has where he's just there's nothing wrong with him.
I'm telling you, he thinks through things too, though, because when he's giving post-game analysis or, responses, it's like he's reading a teleprompter. It is really kind of cool that a kid is that together and anticipates things that well, if you follow my drift. You agree to that too, don't you? I mean, have you ever – there's been rare that there have been extemporaneous speakers of that magnitude. I'll tell you what, Will Howard's pretty close to that. Will Howard, the former Ohio State quarterback, but just the way he can answer questions is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, he's really good. It's definitely, like I said, he's just the guy that you can't find anything wrong with, and he's playing very well. He makes plays on third down. I mean, Miami's going to have to find a way to rattle him a little bit if it's possible. And even in the fourth quarter, I talked to Trent Green about him earlier in the season, former Hoosier, the NFL quarterback, and he said what he liked about Fernando was he would make a mistake in the fourth quarter, then come back and make the next play and make the next drive. And he did that in those huge moments of the season. And then on the other side, Carson Beck, he's done it all. 6th-year quarterback, played a lot of football, played in those venues in the SEC. And I think they're not going to freak out if they go down a touchdown because he's played very well in the playoffs. So the margin for him to make mistakes is less than it is for Mendoza. And it's huge.
It's a classic matchup only because Carson Beck was so ballyhooed, right? Going to Georgia, 5-star, can't miss all this. And of course, Mendoza from right there, a half a mile or a mile from the Miami campus. And the bottom line is nobody wanted him pretty much coming out of high school. And he ends up at Cal and then ends up at Indiana. And here he is, Heisman Trophy winner playing for the national championship. And here's Carson Beck resurrecting his career. A guy who was written off middle of the season. This guy is not big game caliber. Well, the last couple of weeks, I think he's shown that, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And the calmness, the whole Miami narrative about, they're.
Hey, Bill, we lost you there for a second, man. Sorry about that. But I know you got to start packing. You got a long trip ahead of you. You got to make public appearances, being a big time member of the Football Writers Association of America. But let's just wrap it up with this, man. How do you think this game's truly going to go? You've seen both these teams.
Yeah, hey, we're getting stronger internet in the neighborhood, so sorry about that.
Yeah,
that'll be better next time I'm on. Right? That's how you play these off. But no, I think it'll be a fun game. I predicted 31-19 when this thing started, and I'm wavering on that.
31-19 who? Okay.
I think Indiana wins. I think Indiana celebrates. I think the running game gets just a little bit over that number we talked about earlier. And Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr., I failed to mention him. And then this Indiana defense make the plays. Now, I can't gauge what the Miami emotion will be. I can't get if they play the game that they played against Ohio State, this will be a 4-quarter dramatic really fun college football playoff championship. The spread does look high. Anytime you go into a game like this, you want to see a good game. So, but I'll take Indiana, and that means 3 straight Big Ten championships, national championships heading into 2026. So
what do you think about that, Bill? I mean, this could literally happen. What's your thought on that?
I think it's a product of, that this conference is doing things right in this era. Ohio State is established, and they're not going to start doing things the wrong way overnight, right? They're going to be in this. They're the Duke, North Carolina, Kansas in this format if it were basketball. Michigan obviously had a run there at the end with Jim Harbaugh, and it might take a minute for them to get back to that point. Indiana and Oregon are elite programs. That's the argument I've been making. I think I made it on here. I said if there are 3 elite programs in the Big Ten in the present tense: Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana. Not in that order, whatever. There's only one in the SEC right now. I think Georgia's an elite program, and I think there's a bunch of almost. Yeah.
Hey, let Clay ask you one last question though, because this is the interesting dynamic in terms of rooting. I think in this game, Clay, talk to him about that. The Kurt Cignetti smirk.
Oh yeah, but if I asked him, but what if Miami knocked the smirk off Cignetti's face? It would be incredible. And one little other, don't you think Urban would still get some credit for making Michigan more competitive and changing the scope of this conference?
He should. I mean, Urban raised the stakes in the Big Ten.
Yes.
I think Ohio State was content to dominate the Jim Tressel era, but most of the teams were about the same. I'm not saying, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't think Ohio State had a far and away talent advantage on everybody else during the Tressel era. They did have a ton of talent, but going up to Michigan State was tough.
Yes.
Going up to Wisconsin was tough. Now you have a dynamic where I think the top third of the Big Ten is really good. I think the bottom third is really bad. And then that you're living in the middle, like Wisconsin and Minnesota and Iowa. Well, Iowa's kind of in that top third too. My point being, Urban absolutely does deserve credit for that because Michigan had to change the way that they were. Indiana is now in the conversation. You bring Oregon and USC in, those are established brands. What Urban did when he came to Ohio State was they got 5-star it's a lot of I always call it seen on Sunday talent.
Yes.
They got those guys. And
soon to be seen on Sunday talent.
And Jim Tressel did too. I'm not saying he didn't, but it was a little bit, it was the 5-star from the South, Clay, from that area.
Yeah, right.
Like Boza and the list goes on. It's not just Joey and Nick Boza. There was a ton of guys they pulled from the South, and that's happened. And I think the SEC is struggling with this. I spoke with Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, earlier this week about their conference and how they've kind of raised their game. And they've had a really good bowl season. The winner of this game, by the way, their conference has the best record in bowl season.
Yes, and for the third straight year, ladies and gentlemen, no SEC team playing for the national championship. That's crazy when you think about it, right? The narrative. Two of these things are not like that other thing over there. The SEC is the way I would say it now. To paraphrase Greg Sankey. Hey, Bill Bender, I know you got to go pack your bags, etc., and make sure your batteries are charged. But thank you once again, man, for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Hey, you guys have a great week, and I'll talk to you again soon, and I'll send you a picture from the beach, Tim. I'll try to get out there.
Thank you very much. Boy, am I rooting for a cold front to move through there sometime. Yeah.
By the way, it is.
We'll get you back on next week, man, at the end of the week, and we'll see what you thought about things, man, as you took it all in. But ladies and gentlemen, Bill Bender of the Sporting News, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you.
Man, hope Bill Bender has a good time, man. He's one of my favorite people. Hope he has a good time down on the beach. I think the media HQ for the championship game is actually downtown Miami, as opposed to when we were there back when Ohio State played. Back when Ohio State played for the championship in 2020, actually, me and my buddy Jeff Snook ended up with a place out on the beach because you could. This is during COVID.
How long were you there?
And we were there. We were only there for like 4 days and stuff. But he lives right up the road in Atlantis, just south of West Palm Beach. But we ended up with a great 2-bedroom, 2-bath place right on the beach for like almost nothing because nobody was, it was COVID. Nobody was going anywhere. And
you weren't arrested or anything. You guys stayed out of trouble.
Yeah,
that's tremendous.
Yeah, we've matured. Both of us have matured. He didn't want to admit how old he is. I admit readily how old I am. but we both matured in our later years and stuff in terms of getting in trouble. We don't have to close the bar or anything of that ilk.
Right.
Matter of fact, a lot of times we're usually in bed by like 10 o'clock. There's something good's going on. There's a football game going on.
Right.
Right. But I digress. Bottom line is, I don't like that stadium. Never have. Hard Rock Stadium, wherever it's called now. And
wasn't Fickle there
in Miami
year?
Garden? Yeah, 2011.
Yeah.
2011. Joe Bauserman started the game.
Oh.
Braxton Miller finished it, and Braxton Miller was the starter from then on, except when he got banged up. But
that game was just such a dud. It was
just like Ohio State couldn't get out of its own way. It was pretty awful, and it kind of like was that first loss. I think it was the first loss of that season in that interim year between Jim Trussell that hastened in the hiring of Urban Meyer. And boy, did things change in a heartbeat under Urban Meyer, who was hired, basically was announced the week of the Michigan game. They didn't want it to be, but a few of us found out about it and let her rip.
I feel like we need that sound effect like so many do on the radio of, I don't want to coach average, because we both use that, and I just pump it in there every now and then.
I don't want to coach average.
I don't want to coach average.
Yeah, I mean,
dude, it was so good.
Yeah, a new day had dawned in Ohio State football history, and you brought it up a little bit.
I think that's when John Hicks looked at me a day or two later, and he said, "It's pro football at the Woody, brother."
Yeah, well, he's getting it on. Bottom line is, it's really pro football at the Woody now in all definitions, with the revenue share, NIL, all these Ohio State fans who we were talking about it a week ago, all just going crazy on the guys who have left in the transfer portal. And, it always matters, but it doesn't matter unless you're losing big time starters in the transfer portal who want to go somewhere else and get rich. So far, that has not happened to Ohio State in this transfer portal segment. And the bottom line is they have picked up some big time players in the last week. I mean, people don't have the patience now to just sit and watch things play out. Right.
Play out.
Right.
No, it's exactly right. And no, because they freaked out because as of last night, the 30th scholarship Buckeye went in the portal, but they've gotten 11 or 12.
Who are you talking about there? Explain to people who you're talking about.
Well, the last of their freshman defensive linemen, they now have none.
Right.
Or at least they're in the portal. I'll put it that way. They haven't signed with anybody. But what did Ohio State do? And Mark Pantoni, they got your boys from Bama.
Yeah.
And both proven, was it Quay? How do you pronounce that?
Qua, I think Qua probably looks like
Rousseau.
Yeah. We'll learn soon enough.
And James Smith's a D lineman. Rousseau is an edge player.
Edge.
Yeah.
Like think Schick, razor blade edge.
I used a 5 this morning. I just use 3, a Gillette with a 3.
Mm-hmm.
That thing got old, wasn't cutting.
Well, after 3 years, man, you got to change razors.
So I had to pull out the 5-blader.
Oh man!
And I'm always afraid because
when you nick.
That's when you cut yourself bad.
That's when you become Saint Nick. Now, the interesting thing about those two guys, Smith and Rousseau, was the fact they're both originally from the same high school in Montgomery, Alabama. Of course, Turbo Rogers is from Montgomery, Alabama. You know who else is from Montgomery, Alabama? Wears it on his sleeve like almost like a tattoo, is a guy named Carlos Lachlan. And there's an intensity there. You got to believe he was very much involved in all of that. But the bottom line, Quinshon Judkins was from right outside Montgomery. Carlos Lachlan definitely got the most out of that dude when he was at Ohio State, the 1 year they were together. But yeah, when you go down and take 2 guys, 5-star prospects from Alabama's roster,
huge
in the out of the transfer portal. Obviously, Alabama's lost a few guys, man, that big time players for Alabama.
How about this saga of Ty Simpson we talked about the other day?
Yeah,
because Miami, there are 2 other schools, Tennessee.
But go ahead though, talk about it. Yeah, I mean,
but he was gone. And then, somebody Ole Miss, somebody offered $4 million.
Yeah.
And Miami said, he said, well, no, I'm sticking to my boots here. I'm sticking to what I believe.
6.5.
And then Miami said, wait a minute, 6.5.
We think.
Yeah,
that's the case.
It's undocumented, I guess. But
yeah, a lot of numbers get thrown around, but very few get documented in this era. But yeah, I mean, like I said, Ty Simpson is a $6.5 million man.
I never put him in
the kid from the Sorsby, the kid from Cincinnati, is a $5 million guy. No offense, they might be at the end of next year. You might say, if they were on the market now, I'll take them. Or you might be saying, oh my God, what did we just do? I think Ty Simpson's talented, but I don't see him. Dude, I would take Julian Sayin in a heartbeat over Ty Simpson. I would take Julian Sayin in a heartbeat over Sorsby. I always forget his name. I keep calling him Ryan, and it's probably Brandon, or his name is Brandon. I keep calling him Ryan. But I think I just said the same thing there, mirror image of each other. But the bottom line is, desperation, is that the word? What would you use? What word would you use to describe what we're experiencing right now? Remember, we had Bill Kurlick on just talking about the chaos every morning when these guys wake up about what's going on. But what word would you use?
Well, that proves there's no development going on with the younger player. In other words, we got nobody after Carson Beck, and we got to go buy.
Well, no, what it proves more than anything else, though, is the win now. It's more the win now aspect of things, or you can be looking for a job. I mean, I think that's it as much as anything else. But you know what? If you think your missing piece, and it is the most important piece in football, is your starting quarterback,
granted,
then he may be worth the money. That'll be the interesting study to see down the road by some college professor, because I did one with this guy from Ohio State several years ago. My podcast had him on, who had studied, he and his student volunteers had studied what is a 5-star recruit worth to a college football program. This is before they started getting paid and stuff. And I think the number he came up with, they finally came up with something like $650,000.
How much?
$650,000, a 5-star recruit.
And yet,
meaning that's what he's worked to, maybe on a yearly basis, et cetera. But meaning, and back then they were only getting, 3 hots and a cot, and some spending money, some jingling is anyway. But the bottom line is now they're getting paid, and they're getting paid much more than that. And I don't know where this all ends, man. What's your thought on that?
Well, one thing I was going to ask Bill, could Indiana change modern day recruiting, winning the national championship without a 5-star player? Hey, guys, coach better. Yeah, it does take the Jimmies and Joes, but if they end up winning it, I don't know.
But they're still getting guys from the portal. And like I brought it with Bill Kurlick the other day,
they are.
Here's what's going to happen is now people are going to pay attention to who Indiana's after in the portal. You follow my drift,
because they know.
And the thing about it is the special ingredient in the sauce that Indiana has going for it is Curt Cignetti, because Curt Cignetti, anybody they recruit clearly has to pass his final analysis. Will this guy fit in what we're trying to do, et cetera? And sometimes, Kurt, you can see something in somebody that fits you that may not fit Penn State USC.
That's right.
Or Alabama. And but the problem is you got to get you end up really got to get 2 of those, because what if that guy gets hurt? You know what I mean? So you always got to have, what's the old line, pair and a spare, right? You're building a Formula One race car. You got to have, because eventually you're going to scrape the wall at the least. You're going to have to need a spare part to put in there. And
stub a toe.
I think a lot of people thought when Indiana, what's the name of the kid that got hurt celebrating the win over Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, big time defensive lineman,
Stephen Daly.
Stephen Daly, good recall.
20 TFLs for IU. Before
and then boom. Now a lot of people thought, oh no,
right.
They can't afford to lose a guy like that.
Yeah.
Did you see what they did to Oregon? Did you see what they did to Oregon and Dante Moore?
Yeah.
It was relentless. And, we didn't get to bring this up with Bill Bender too, though. I mean, one of the keys to Indiana is they cause turnovers. I mean, that Oregon game, they turned 3 first-half turnovers into touchdowns. One was a pick six, and the other 2 were drives after fumble recoveries. And but they caused the fumbles too. And this team just gets after you, man. I mean, I'm looking forward to watching this game.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Excuse me. Is there pressure? There's intense pressure on both teams. Indiana's trying to do something that's never been done, 16-0.
Yeah.
Miami's trying to prove with the cherry on top, we're back.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Well, no, not only that.
Well,
but Miami was that team everybody was saying didn't belong.
That's true.
In the playoff, number one. Number two, I said all along, Alabama was that team. The argument was who should have been left out and Notre Dame in. It should have been Alabama left out. I mean, that was found out. But go ahead.
That's right. But to me, Indiana they're different. They're impervious to pressure, as I'm trying not to pop the P.
Yeah.
But there's so much. I was just going to. We got so many little Buckeye bullet points that have percolated here.
You remind me of Freddie Mercury. Go ahead now.
In the last day or so, but we don't want to bury the lead. We haven't talked about a certain player.
We're getting to that.
All right.
As we speak, ladies and gentlemen, we just got word here at the international desk of fanstreamsports.com/Ohio headquarters, HQ.
I like that.
James Laurinaitis, one of my favorite people I've ever covered. I think you would agree. One of the favorite people you ever covered has been elected to the College Football Hall of Fame class. Is this class of 2026, right? And it was announced this afternoon. And the interesting thing about that is this guy was a Buckeyes Award winner, 3-time All-American at Ohio State, longtime pro, longtime NFL player for teams that if everybody on that team had been even 90% of how good James Laurinaitis was, they would have won that. They would have won some Super Bowls, but alas, that was not the case. But
wasn't he the Rams' leading tackler?
Yeah. He just the dude just played the son of Little Animal, played his rear end off.
I think he was the little animal, son of Animal, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say he played like a badger or a wolverine, but that would be blasphemy in his account. But Clay, what do you recall? What do you recall about James Laurinaitis? Just when I say James Laurinaitis, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Just the consummate linebacker. But as these guys matriculate, they move from here, Ohio State, to the NFL, to retirement or into other things. That's when I was able to get to know people even better, because there's 50 or 100 reporters who want a piece of every great Buckeye. And you're always fighting for that, as we used to fight over little, whatever, the first question or any question or whatever. But I went to his home, and he's got this, I don't even know what you call it.
What is it?
It's like, it almost like would look like a grain container, grain whatever.
Yeah.
And he's got
silo.
And he's got 2 rocking chairs up there. And so
what? Wait a minute. What? I've nenever heard this.
And this is before he went to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And he had people, I remember after he got the gig, and people were like, didn't you just buy build a house?
Yes, he did. I even asked him that.
How could you leave?
Yeah.
And so, but anyway,
with his Kubota tractor,
he was he had a little outdoor office. It was the greatest.
Wait a minute. You walk in the door, though. Give people more of a feel for this. You walk in the door, and what did you see?
Well, I'm talking in the outbuilding. It was it just was, had a little fireplace. It had.
I'm talking about where the rocking chairs were. Yeah, the silos.
Well, we climbed to the top. He had a circular staircase, and we went up there. And I think this is maybe one time when I was by myself that I didn't have to shoot. Somebody came with me, and we had him climb behind him, going up the stairs, and it just was so.
But when you got
it was so enjoyable.
So literally, he had like a little perch on the top of a silo,
probably 30, 40 feet.
Wow.
And so
what could you see from up there?
And so I don't know how much of this land. Yeah, he did have the land because
he did. Definitely did.
He said, my thing extends to such and such. And there was a little babbling brook down there.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're like a half a mile out of town. What? Yeah. I mean, where did you find this? And I think he bought the lot, built a house. And
then boom, all of a sudden he and his family are in South Bend, Indiana, or maybe Mishawaka, right next door.
That's right.
But that's what, I couldn't get over because, he did that radio show with Bo Bishop forever.
Yeah.
And was good on it.
Yeah.
Not former player type good. He was really good on it. You still what I mean by that.
He could get it from here to here.
Yeah. But he also had all kinds of, he wanted to stay in his ballpark for the most part, talking about things. But
true.
But he talked a lot about, just bringing along that piece of property and finally getting his dream home. And then he lived. And I'm thinking, well, if anything, he's hanging on to that because you would think, he had the desire to come back to Columbus. If you follow my drift,
it seems like they all do
sooner rather than later. And the thing is, I think he told me he sold that property.
He did,
and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but he was only gone from Ohio State it wasn't even a
year.
Wasn't even 12 months. Remember, he was a GA at Ohio State, and he wasn't even gone a year. Next thing you know, he's back, and I think he's become a hell of a football coach.
Hell of a recruiter.
I thought he already was, in terms of when they hired him. But you have to learn how to hone what what made you great, be able to put that over in this corner and be able to determine, all right, what do I need to bring out of this guy and this guy and this guy, maybe 8, 10 guys in your room there and stuff. And I think
and they're all different.
I think he's really becoming a consummate teacher of the game because like I was talking to my, one of my sons the other night and I said, maybe the greatest player in hockey history was Wayne Gretzky, but he was a horrible coach because a guy like him expected, how do you coach somebody?
Play like me.
They can't because they're not you, et cetera. And it just for James Laurinaitis, I would think, he can just rattle off stuff that he would be the 1,000 thoughts that would be going through his brain between the time of the offense deployed to its formation and the time the snap went. All these little adjustments, not just you're making out loud maybe to fellow players, but what you're making it within your brain every play, and to translate that to other players on how to do that and become not just proficient but efficient at it and ahead of the game. I mean, just all these little things that make you better than you are.
Well, maybe he
was really good at, like Chris Spielman. He was really good at the mental side, like Caleb Downs. He's really good at the mental side of the game. He's already really, really, really good at the physical aspect of playing the game, including the hitting you at the end of the play.
Right.
But getting there with a half-step head start because you were ahead of them mentally.
Okay.
That's what sets the great ones apart.
Well, and if he could instill his want to in the next kid,
right,
that's half of it.
Right.
Then you got to have the physical.
But you're right, man. The conversation I had with Juliette Pettijohn, the mother of Riley Pettijohn, who's going to rise now as one of the starting linebackers at Ohio State after his yeoman's duty this past year, especially on special teams. But she was just talking about how impressive James Laurinaitis was right from the get-go of recruiting her son. And I invite people to listen to that podcast again. It was done before Ohio State went down to Dallas for the Cotton Bowl. But just the personality he brings, but also you can tell he's been there, done that.
Yeah.
And that's what stands out, man. When you can merge, because when you can merge a great player with the ability to teach and the hunger that he has to be better today than he was yesterday, because a lot of former players get into coaching, like I said a while ago, and they can't do the teaching part. They're not, and they don't necessarily want to do the recruiting part, which, by the way, the Jimmies and the Joes are what it's always about, as you well know, right?
Yeah. But Nick Saban can help, or Ryan Day. But I remember when he left, and I was like,
no, I'm just getting into the fact of when you merge those two things together, along with the resume of, by the way, I played the game at the highest level.
oh, right.
I played the game at an elite level. There's the credibility that you bring into a room when you walk in front of a bunch of linebackers, and down the road, a bunch of defensive players, and down the road, an entire team. You know,
it's a slam dunk.
Yeah. The first thing that James Laurinaitis definitely should do when he walks in the first time as a head coach down the road is Google me to the players, you know, because a lot of them won't recall how a guy played in the 2000s, the 2000 teens as a player. But boy, you Google him and you'll be going, okay, or I'm going to listen to this guy because he's been there, done that. And I think that's what, you know, it's really funny how many great coaches at every level were average, or even not even very good football players.
So when he left, I was like kind of bent out of shape. I was like, Ryan Day, what the hell, man? Can you not see? Do you think he had to go do this because they were all like, well, yeah, he's a great player, but you never know if somebody really wants to be a coach.
Right.
And when he left and said, I want to be a GA, I'm going to work under whoever, Marcus, et cetera, it wasn't just about a friendship thing. And then it was proven to Ryan Day, okay, now we know he's willing to make the sacrifices to be a coach.
Well, I think that's exactly what happened. Yeah. I mean, so James really, you know, the way I remember it, James had he had Ryan's attention, but Ryan, you know, how do I put that? Ryan doesn't mess around. I mean, Ryan wants you don't really have room.
So it was kind
especially on a big time on the 10, the roster of 10 true assistant coaches. You don't have room to be teaching somebody how to do something.
That's right. That's right.
At Ohio State, you shouldn't be teaching somebody how to do something. I mean, look at the block that Carlos Lachlan ran around before he got to Ohio State. I mean, assistant coach on the high school level in Memphis, and then he goes to Western Kentucky,
and Memphis
and then Florida State, and always trying to prove him Memphis State. Yeah, Memphis State first, and then right on down the line, and ends up at Oregon for what was it, 1 year, 2 years, and Ohio State offers, and boom. But Carlos Lachlan's about as intense a dude you're ever going to run into.
Yeah.
And effective. Yeah. But that's just an example. You've got to prove yourself. You should have to prove yourself before you're given the keys to an assistant coach's door at a place like Ohio State or Notre Dame.
So that was probably Ryan, in a way, saying, show me. So,
well, yeah.
And he showed him.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about it is we can sit back and we can go, well, he's better.
Mm-hmm.
You can see, I mean, I can see the potential in James Laurinaitis. I don't know why I'm whispering, but I could see the potential in James Laurinaitis from where I was sitting about what he could be.
Sure.
Because the thing about him is when he got into radio, he dove into radio. He didn't rodeo. He drove into radio like a rodeo cowboy.
Yeah.
He dove into the radio aspect of it. He didn't just backstroke through it. He wasn't a leaf, as I like to say, a leaf floating down the creek doing it. And so that shows when he really gets after something, he dedicates himself. But congratulations to him, man. And what is he, the 29th Ohio State
29er,
29th Ohio State former football player, now in the College Football Hall of Fame. That tells you something about legacy.
Ooh, yeah.
Like Bill Bender was talking about earlier about the blue blood aspect of things, the top programs in the Big Ten and stuff. And you can be a big time program, but the reason you're a big time program is because you had big time players playing for you. And the reason you had big time players for you is because as a school, as the athletic department, you showed a dedication to, we don't want to be just good. We want to be great.
Yeah.
And that's why Ohio State's been the greatest college football program in the country since 1968. I think you could look that up. You can Google that while you're looking for Cignetti and maybe refreshing yourself on what James Laurinaitis brought to Ohio State, brought to the program. And just one last thing, speaking of developing players, James Laurinaitis, just like A.J. Hawk, I think was a 3-star prospect coming out of high school.
Edina East, maybe.
I thought it was Wayzata, but I'm going to Google that. Yeah.
Wayzata.
Yeah. Wayzata. But go ahead, though.
Anyway, it was the town.
Yeah.
But I thought.
Yeah, I think you might be right. But
I may have this confused. My roommate at Mississippi State went to Edina East High School in Wayzata.
Wayzata.
We're gonna go back.
But go
and
ahead
forth
though.
on this.
Go ahead though.
But
finish the anecdote.
And so, anyway,
no, don't go anyway. Tell me what you're talking about.
No, that high school just rang a bell with me because
big time hockey school, by the way.
Yeah, right. There's Edina East, Edina West, whatever. Because Mark Ford, my college roommate back in the day, from his dad went to Mississippi State. He's from Minneapolis. My dad went to Mississippi State, but he's in Columbus, Ohio, and so we hit it off immediately. We were the kind of Yankees, the fish out of water in Starkville.
He was born, James Laurinaitis, the son of one of the little animal, was born in Wayzata, Minnesota.
Okay.
Does it his dad Joe was known as part of the tag team of the Road Warrior Animal.
Mm-hmm.
Two uncles, John and Marcus, were also professional wrestlers. But anyway, James went to Wayzata High School.
Oh, he did. All right. Okay.
And played hockey and played football.
Yeah.
Can you imagine him coming at you on a hockey rink?
And he always said, "I just don't know if Urban would have recruited me."
Yeah.
Because
he didn't have the stars,
didn't have the 4 or the 5.
But you know what? Urban didn't just recruit 4 and 5 stars.
No, I remember.
If Urban got his eyes on you,
that's right.
If Urban got his eyes on you, he thought you could be a hell of a football player. Boom.
Who were
don't be quizzing me. If you don't have the answer, that doesn't mean I'm going to have it because I'm 71, but go ahead.
No, the number of times I would hear, it was Lee from New Albany. He was a quarterback in New Albany. Darren Lee. And he had to go back to camp and back to camp.
Yeah.
And Luke Fickle kept saying, keep coming.
He's the guy.
And he
finally convinced.
And scored a touchdown against Big Blue, I recall, in the shoe.
There you go. But he was part of that ridiculous football team in 2014 and 15.
Oh, my gosh. And he didn't have the stars either. And Luke said,
no,
Urban, watch my guy.
Right. But the thing about it is when you don't have the stars, now you do have to prove yourself to a certain extent. There's nothing wrong with that because you could be a 3-star and, really you could be overrated. You might be a 2-star or you could be a 3-star and you could be underrated, be a 4-star. Joe Tiller finally quit recruiting 4 and 5 stars at Purdue, which might have been sort of the beginning of his undoing because it was a waste of time for him because they rarely ever got him. Okay. Drew Brees was an afterthought from the standpoint of growing up in the shadow of the University of Texas. And Drew Brees ends up being one of the great college quarterbacks of all time and National Football League quarterbacks of all time. But he ends up with at the right place at the right time with Joe Tiller, basketball on grass. And they took off. So the fact that everybody gets a fair shot, ladies and gentlemen, that is not accurate. And sometimes you have to prove yourself. But when you come in with a chip on your shoulder, like James Laurinaitis did, James Laurinaitis is now in the College Football Hall of Fame. He's been in the Ohio State Hall of Fame for a long time, but now he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. Congratulations to him. And definitely, in my opinion, I think you agree maybe, if he wants to be down the road, he's going to be following the Brian Hartline footsteps, in my opinion, of being a head coach in some time, in some form or fashion in college football. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. And as you were trumpeting the news today, and as I recall, you played the trumpet
a little bit,
at one point in your
life. That's why I like Matt Patricia.
So you could have, that's what he's doing in a figurative. There you go, a figurative sense.
You know what I like to
My
play?
dad.
I like to play those Bill Chase, those songs back when I was growing up. Like Vehicle and a couple of those other things. Good morning now. Yeah. Anyway, you're my vehicle, baby.
You're much more musically. My dad wanted me to play the clarinet,
Blood, Sweat, and Tears,
like Pete Fountain.
Yeah,
and I got a set of drums, and he's like, Clay, I'm gonna tell you one more time if you keep playing. And so I drummed for a bit.
No, most 90% of the people listening to us probably have no idea who Pete Fountain is.
That's true.
Or was.
That's true.
We had an LP
New
in
Orleans,
our house.
Right?
Wasn't
he a jazz?
My mom loved Pete Fountain on the clarinet, but his band, etc. So there's nothing wrong. My mom made all of us May boys, take piano lessons just because, right? And the thing about it is, you think, well, whatever, you didn't become a professional musician. I go, no, if you'd heard me on the trumpet, you'd know why, or on the piano. But you know what I can do?
What?
I can read music.
See, I could, even playing the drums, I couldn't read music.
Yeah.
And so that was it.
Paradiddle, flapadiddle, all those things you had to learn.
So instead of having this much rhythm, which you need as a musician, I had forget it.
All right, last thing, anecdote from me.
Yes.
I always wanted a set of drums when I was growing up. When I was 12 years old, I thought I was getting one set of drums for Christmas. I got up at 4 a.m. after Santa had come.
You were ready.
And I'm just going, no set of drums. I went back to bed. I don't think I got up that Christmas morning till 8:30. Which for a May boy,
you were boycotting.
If you weren't up by 6:15 on Christmas morning, something was wrong. And get this, not only that, I had 3 brothers, one older, 2 younger.
Yeah,
my baby brother, who I always refer to now, who's now 68, Tony. Yeah. He got a set of drums the next Christmas.
Oh man,
I'm not sure what that meant, but anyway, I was never a big Santa fan after that. Ooh, the secret was out.
That's painful.
Yeah, I won't reveal the secret about Santa.
Whoa!
But for my money, the secret was out. Ladies and gentlemen, the secret's out that we've run out of time. My name's Tim May. That's Clay Hall. This has been the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall. And you know what, Clay? We're going to be back. We're going to have our good buddy Matt Wilhelm. We need to set things up on Friday. We got to change that name. It's been Mondays with Matt, Wednesdays with Wilhelm. We're going to have to give him another name like Friar Tuck, Fridays with Friar Tuck. Maybe that'll be his nickname for Friday. And trying to wrangle up another guy to help us on maybe late Monday
to evaluate,
preview the national championship game on, because I don't think you can talk about this matchup. This is unbelievable, this matchup. Who had this matchup at the beginning of the season?
I'll tell you who.
All right, go ahead.
And this person bet on this.
Why did I even add? That was a rhetorical question, but then I found out there's an answer.
I heard it on radio that the former Indians reliever, who is occasional guest on 97.1, and you're going to help me with his name because I told you my recall.
Yeah.
Jensen Lewis.
Yeah, Jensen Lewis.
He bet it.
You're kidding me.
He had Miami against IU in the final, I believe. I'm going to triple check.
What win though?
Right, but no.
When did he have it?
I mean, before the season.
Wow.
Yes. Confirm that you're in and out of there all the time. Confirm that information.
I thought that Indiana's Waterloo was going to be when it played Ohio State. But I had them being very good this year. Anybody?
You bet.
You remember that?
Yes,
and,
many times.
But wow, he had Miami, Indiana.
Triple check that, because on Friday I don't want to leave.
I'm going to text him as soon as we're done here.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's Clay Hall. I'm Tim May. We'll see you again on Friday. Be sure to tune in. Thank you for joining us. Shh. By the way, Clay has left the room. I wanted to let you folks in on a real bargain out there in the world of simulator golf. The Back Nine Golf, which is located at 2820 Fishinger Road in Upper Arlington, has a hell of a holiday box available to you right now. The value is nearly $300, but your price is $150 if you jump online. That's almost 50% off if you jump online at Columbus at theback9golf.com. That's their email address. Their website is theback9golf.com/Columbus-Upper-Arlington-OH/ That's a long That's a long address, but just write it down a couple times watching it. And you can also call them at 614-362-7888, parentheses, PUTT, P-U-T-T. But the bottom line is one of the new ultra modern simulators that you can find in the greater Columbus area. And it's really right there in the middle of Upper Arlington. I know Tito Thidoff and I hopped in there the other day. I think it was 16 degrees outside. There was snow and ice everywhere, and we played Pebble Beach. And we did it in less than an hour. So it's one of the great bargains going out there. And with this holiday box, you get 1 month of Birdie membership. You get Back Nine branded golf balls. You get cozy Back Nine beanie, and you get premium Back Nine towel. So that's a hell of a deal because basically it's unlimited golf. It's 24/7. You get a code to get you in the door, and then you can go from there. And it's definitely fun. It's the premises are pristine. I know we had a great time. We even played closest to the hole, a few shots on number 7, famed number 7 short par 3 at Pebble Beach the other day, and had a great time doing it. So if you're looking for that last minute gift for a golfer that you love, or yourself that you love, that you're a golfer, nothing wrong with giving yourself a gift at this time of the year. That's the Back Nine Golf holiday box, and it's only a limited time. And as you can imagine, there are only a few available. Quantities are tight. So check in at theback9golf.com.